For decades, International Harvester stood as a symbol of strength, endurance, and pure American engineering. Built to last, these tractors didn't just work the land, they helped shape the farming world as we know it. From legendary models that refused to quit to machines still running strong after half a century, these are the 10 most reliable International Harvester tractors of all time. Proof that real durability never goes out of style. Number 1. Farmall H. There are machines that come and go, and then there are machines that never go away. And if you ask any old-timer who's spent his life in the fields, chances are he'll smile and say, "The Farmall H tractor never let me down." Introduced in the late 1930s, the Farmall H became one of the most trusted workhorses in American farming history. It wasn't the most powerful, it wasn't the fanciest, but what made it special was its heart. This tractor just kept going. Under its hood sat a reliable 152 cubic inch four-cylinder engine, producing around 26 horsepower, modest numbers by today's standards, but that's not what mattered. What mattered was how it delivered that power. Smooth, consistent torque, a transmission so solid you could shift it in your sleep, and an engine that would start on the coldest Midwest morning, even if it had been sitting all winter long. Farmers loved how simple and serviceable it was. No complex electronics, no fancy hydraulics, everything was mechanical, straightforward, and easy to fix. If something broke, you didn't call a technician. You grabbed a wrench, maybe a hammer, and an old coffee can of bolts, and you were back in business by noon. And that's why the H became everybody's friend. From plowing fields to powering belt-driven machines, it could do it all. You'd find it working on small family farms, pulling wagons, baling hay, or sitting proudly in the barn ready for the next job. Even today, more than 70 years later, countless Farmall H tractors are still running strong. They've outlived their owners, their barns, and sometimes even their farms. Because when something is built right, built to last, it doesn't fade away. It becomes legendary. The Farmall H, the tractor that never quit and never will. Number 2. Farmall M. If the Farmall H was the dependable worker, then the Farmall M was the muscle of the family. Introduced in 1939, it was bigger, bolder, and tougher, built for farmers who needed more power, more pull, and more endurance. Under its hood roared a 247 cubic inch four-cylinder gasoline engine, delivering around 38 horsepower. Now that may not sound like much today, but back then it was a serious step up, enough to handle 3-bottom plows, heavy cultivators, and the long, punishing workdays that defined farm life. But what truly made the Farmall famous was its durability. These tractors could work 12-hour days, 6 days a week, and still ask for more. Their gearboxes were practically indestructible, the clutch systems rarely failed, and the cooling design ensured they wouldn't overheat even in the sweltering heat of harvest season. Farmers often joked that if a tornado tore through the county, the only thing left standing would be the old M in the barn. And honestly, they weren't far off. This tractor wasn't just built, it was forged. Cast iron frame, solid steering, and weight distribution that made it as stable as it was strong. Another reason for its reliability was maintenance accessibility. You could reach almost everything with basic hand tools. That's why so many of these machines stayed alive for decades, because they were easy to fix, easy to understand, and built with parts that lasted. And when diesel became more common, IH adapted, introducing the MD diesel variant, even more powerful and just as dependable. The MD version could start on gasoline, then switch to diesel once warmed up, a unique feature that made it both fuel-efficient and farm-friendly. Today, collectors, restorers, and working farmers still celebrate the Farmall M as one of the most enduring tractors of all time. You'll still find it working in fields, pulling hay wagons, and roaring to life in tractor shows across America. The Farmall M wasn't just a tractor, it was a partner. A machine that earned its place in history, one long day at a time. Number 3. Farmall Super A. Not every legend comes in a big, loud package. Some are small, humble, but every bit as mighty. That's the story of the Farmall Super A. Released in the early 1940s, this compact tractor was the perfect fit for small farms, orchards, and vegetable fields. It didn't boast massive horsepower or flashy design. Instead, it focused on reliability, maneuverability, and simplicity, the kind of tractor you could count on every single day, no matter the job. Powered by a 103 cubic inch four-cylinder engine, the Super A delivered about 18 horsepower, enough for its size to handle cultivation, mowing, light plowing, and planting duties with ease. But its genius lay in its touch control hydraulic system, one of the first of its kind on a small tractor. This gave operators fingertip precision for raising and lowering implements, something revolutionary for its era. And yet, the reason it became a legend wasn't just innovation, it was trust. The Super A rarely broke down. Its compact size meant it was light on its feet, and its mechanical simplicity made it nearly impossible to kill. Farmers loved that it started every morning, ran smooth, and barely sipped fuel. When the Super A1 version came later, with a bit more power and refinement, it only added to the legacy. Generations of farmers passed their Super A down like an heirloom because it never gave them a reason not to. Even today, when you walk through a barn or a farm auction, you'll see that little red Super A sitting there. Maybe with chipped paint, a few dents, but still ready to work. The Farmall Super A wasn't the biggest, but it had the biggest heart. A small giant that helped build generations of farms, one furrow at a time. Number 4. Farmall 560. By the late 1950s, farming was changing fast. Fields were getting larger, equipment heavier, and farmers needed more horsepower than ever. That's where the Farmall 560 entered the scene, a tractor that brought power and reliability together in a way few machines ever had. The 560 was built around a 282 cubic inch diesel or gasoline engine capable of delivering 60 to 70 horsepower, enough to handle the big jobs that smaller tractors couldn't. It was designed for serious work, deep tillage, large planters, and long demanding harvest days. Now, the early 560s faced some challenges when introduced, mainly with rear-end durability under extreme loads. But International Harvester quickly corrected those issues, and from that point forward, the 560 earned a reputation for toughness and dependability. Once fixed, these tractors went on to serve for decades with minimal trouble. The heart of its reliability came from IH's legendary D282 engine, a low RPM powerhouse known for its smooth operation and incredible longevity. Farmers often bragged that their 560s ran 10,000 hours without needing an overhaul, just regular oil changes and a good operator's touch. Another strength of the 560 was its versatility. Whether you ran it with row crop cultivators, balers, or plows, it could handle them all. Its transmission was smooth, the PTO system was solid, and it offered comfort improvements that made long hours more bearable. Even in harsh conditions, dusty summers or freezing winters, the 560 proved itself over and over again. The design prioritized accessibility. You could service filters, fluids, and even internal components without taking half the tractor apart. That meant more uptime, less downtime. For many farmers, the 560 became their forever tractor. It wasn't just reliable, it was dependable under pressure. When other machines quit, the 560 kept going. The Farmall 560, born from power, refined by experience, and remembered for one thing above all: reliability. Number 5. International Harvester 826. By the late 1960s, farmers were demanding more power, more comfort, and more reliability, and that's when International Harvester answered with the 826, a tractor that became a living legend in the diesel age. Underneath its red sheet metal was the beating heart of a true workhorse, the D358 German-built diesel engine. This was no ordinary motor. It was a slow-revving, long-stroke powerhouse, designed for torque, not speed. That meant it could pull heavy loads all day long and still start up the next morning without complaint. Ask anyone who owned an 826, and they'll tell you the same thing. This tractor was nearly impossible to wear out. Its cast iron block, robust crankshaft, and gear-driven components were built with one word in mind: endurance. The engine didn't scream, it rumbled, steady and strong. But reliability wasn't just in the engine, it was in every part of the machine. The transmission was bulletproof, the hydraulics smooth and dependable. Even the wiring harness was laid out simply enough that any farmer could repair it themselves. This was a tractor built for the real world: dusty fields, muddy roads, long nights under the floodlights of harvest season. What made the 826 truly stand out was how little it asked in return. Keep the oil clean, don't skip the filters, check your coolant. Do that and the tractor would give you decades of faithful service. Even today, you'll find the 826 still working on farms across North America, still idling away on diesel that smells like history. These machines earned their place not through hype, but through hours, thousands and thousands of hard, honest hours. The 826 wasn't just reliable. It was dependable, durable, and downright immortal. The kind of tractor that made International Harvester a name to believe in. Number 6. International Harvester 1066. When you talk about the legends of the International Harvester lineup, there's one number that always echoes across the fields: 1066. The IH-1066 wasn't just a tractor, it was a statement. Introduced in the early 1970s, this was the muscle-bound hero of the red tractor lineup. It packed a 414 cubic inch turbocharged diesel engine, pushing out around 125 horsepower, but more importantly, it delivered mountains of torque, and torque is what gets the job done. The 1066 could pull heavy implements that left other tractors gasping for air. It worked long days in blistering heat and freezing cold, and it kept going. The secret was its low RPM design. It didn't need to spin fast to make power. That meant less wear, less heat, and a much longer engine life. Farmers fell in love with it because it could do everything: till, plant, plow, haul, and still have power to spare. And yet it was easy to work on. The 1066's design made maintenance simple. Filters and belts were right where you could reach them. Even decades later, this machine commands respect. There's something about hearing that turbo spool up, that deep, throaty diesel note. It's like music to the ears of anyone who's ever worked the land. You'll find 1066 still working today, some with over 10,000 hours on the clock, still starting, still pulling, still proving why it's called one of the most reliable tractors ever built. The IH-1066 wasn't just a machine, it was an era. It was the sound of American horsepower built to last a lifetime and then some. Number 7. International Harvester 1466. If the 1066 was the king, then the IH-1466 was the emperor. Bigger, stronger, and just as unstoppable. Launched in the mid-1970s, the 1466 took everything great about the 1066 and pushed it even further. It came armed with a 436 cubic inch turbocharged diesel engine, churning out nearly 145 horsepower, and it was built to dominate large fields and big farms. But more importantly, it was built to last. The 1466 had a heavier transmission, stronger rear end, and improved cooling, addressing every weak point that could limit longevity. Farmers quickly realized that this tractor could handle anything, pulling chisel plows, powering grain carts, and hauling loads that would make lesser machines cry for mercy. And yet, despite its size and power, it remained reliable. It didn't overheat easily, didn't strain under stress, and didn't require constant maintenance. You could run it dawn till dusk, day after day, season after season. All it asked for was fuel and a little respect. Even decades later, many of these machines still operate across the Midwest. Original engines, original transmissions, still doing what they were built to do. That's a level of reliability that modern tractors with all their electronics can only dream of. The 1466 became a favorite among custom operators and large-scale farmers who valued raw power without sacrificing dependability. It was the peak of IH engineering before the 1980s brought new challenges to the company. The 1466 wasn't just reliable, it was unstoppable. A beast forged from steel, sweat, and the simple idea that a great tractor should never let its farmer down. Number 8. International Harvester 806. Every once in a while, a tractor comes along that defines reliability for an entire generation. For many, that tractor was the International Harvester 806. Built in the mid-1960s, the 806 was the right tractor at the right time, a machine that could handle the growing demands of mechanized agriculture, yet still be simple enough for the average farmer to maintain. Its secret weapon, the 361 cubic inch diesel engine, powerful, efficient, and nearly indestructible. Farmers said the 806 had a personality. It never complained. Whether it was running a baler, pulling a cultivator, or dragging wagons up steep hills, it just got the job done. The transmission was smooth, the clutch strong, and the PTO setup could take punishment like no other. And when something did go wrong, which was rare, it was fixable. Parts were easy to find, and repairs could be done right in the barnyard. That's why so many 806s are still in service today, nearly 60 years after they rolled off the assembly line. The 806 also had a reputation for comfort. It might not seem luxurious by modern standards, but in its day the improved operator platform, easy steering, and clear controls made long days far less tiring. Ask any farmer who ran one and they'll tell you. The 806 wasn't flashy, but it was faithful. You could bet your livelihood on it. The IH806. Proof that reliability isn't about numbers on a spec sheet. It's about trust. And this tractor earned it every single day. Number 9. Farmall 400 and 455. Before the high horsepower giants took over, there were the tractors that built the backbone of American agriculture, the dependable Farmall 400 and 450 series. These were the machines that worked the middle ground, not the biggest, not the smallest, but always the most reliable. Introduced in the mid-1950s, the 400 and 450 were powered by tough, torquey four-cylinder engines that could run on gasoline, diesel, or even LP gas. Farmers adored these tractors for their balance. Enough power to handle tough field work, but simple enough to maintain with a wrench set and a good cup of coffee. The 400 and 450 were often used for cultivating, mowing, plowing, and hauling, the everyday tasks that kept farms alive. The secret to their reliability was their simplicity. No unnecessary complexity, just solid gears, strong steel, and components that rarely failed. And because parts were shared across the Farmall line, keeping one running for decades was never a problem. Many farmers still have their father's or grandfather's 450 parked in a shed, dusty, maybe a little rusty, but if you put in fresh fuel and turn the key, it'll still fire up. That's not nostalgia, that's engineering done right. The Farmall 400 and 450. Proof that sometimes the most dependable machines aren't the biggest. They're just the ones that never stop working. Number 10. International Utility Tractors. Hydro and Compact Series. At the heart of every farm, there's always that one tractor. Not the biggest or the loudest, but the one that gets used every single day. For many, that was an International Harvester utility tractor, like the Hydro 70, 574, or 684. These smaller, nimble machines became the unsung heroes of agriculture. They fed livestock, mowed hay, loaded bales, and hauled wagons. They were designed with one goal in mind, to be there when you needed them. The hydrostatic transmission, a signature IH innovation, made them smooth, easy to operate, and nearly foolproof. Fewer clutches meant less wear. Simpler hydraulics meant fewer leaks. The engines, mostly from the D-series diesels, were low-stressed and long-lasting. These tractors might not have been the stars of tractor pulls or farm shows, but they were the ones that never missed a day's work. Even decades later, many are still running. Proof that reliability isn't just about brute force, it's about consistency. These were the tractors that built families, fed nations, and stood the test of time. From the mighty 1006 to the humble Farmall H, International Harvester proved one thing above all. When they built it red, they built it to last. Decade after decade, these International Harvester tractors have earned their place in history, not through fame, but through sheer reliability and hard work. Which one do you think deserves the title of the toughest ever built? Tell me in the comments below. If you love exploring legendary tractors and timeless machines, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories from the golden age of farming. Thanks for watching. And remember, true legends never break down, they just keep on working.